Hi.
Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us on this Thursday for the latest edition of Check-In. I'm Sara Leske. He's Jamie Thomas, and we are going to get you ready for Game 31, the Winnipeg Jets
Where
tonight.
did the time go, Sarah? Where did the time go?
It kind of is crazy when you think about it that we're already at that point. The 21-9 Winnipeg Jets playing host to the 18-7-3 Vegas Golden Knights tonight. It is always a great night in the building. In terms of excitement when Vegas comes to town. There's a certain type of energy and rivalry that exists between these two teams. So looking forward to that one. And we're going to get you set over the next 30 minutes with a busy show.
We do have some great guests coming up. Of course, let me throw up, not to brag or anything like that. We have Gabe Vilardi, Winnipeg Jet forward.
Caught up with him just a little while ago.
Yeah, that's your guest. And we have brought in former Winnipeg Jets TV alumni and Manitoba product.
It's probably what he leads with. On his LinkedIn.
I think so. He was here like a month, I think it was. It was a very quick cup of coffee. But Darren Millard, VGK TV host, will be joining us to talk about the Vegas Golden Knights and his thoughts on the Western Conference. I haven't told him that's what he's talking about, but that's what he's going to talk about.
Well, and he hosts podcasts as well. Obviously,
yes.
Very familiar to not only fans within this region, but across Canada as well. We also have sneak peeks of Runway. Episode 3 debuts tonight on the TSN broadcast, and then a highlight from your podcast that you just did recently as well, Ground Control with Eric Comrie.
Yeah, it was great. We'll get into it a little bit later, but I know anybody that knows Eric Comrie or seen him on our social channels, you'll understand how great he is. He was fantastic in the interview. So a lot of people probably wondering why we're wearing what we are wearing right now. It is South Asia Heritage Night.
South Asian Heritage Night. And if you are coming to the game here tonight, once again, we have holiday shopping that we can cross off your list for you. All merchandise with the South Asian Heritage logo is 25% off tonight. You see the hats, the hoodies. There's a number of different types of
great stuff.
Hats as well. So tons of great gear. Again, if you're coming to the game tonight, it is only available on the concourse, the Jets gear stores, but is 25% off.
That's great. I like this one.
It looks great on you.
Yeah.
I did.
It's funny how I was about to put it on you, said that'll look good on you, and I'm like, you're just saying that. And then when I put it on, I'm like, yeah, it does look good on me. So thank you. And I might just walk out of here with it. So I paid for this.
Saying.
I just paid for this.
Just saying.
There's no tag on it. There's no tag.
Great to see so many people already in the chat. Hello, John from Edmonton. Mary Jane, hi. Loving the hoodies and cap. It does look good on you. I tried to wear the flat brim on it. And
I'm just so disappointed you bailed.
I know.
Although it was hard not to laugh because the way you put it on. So maybe it was better that we had it. I feel like we laugh way too much on the show.
It might be. You can never laugh too much, though.
To be honest.
All right, let's, before we start setting up tonight's game, let's talk about what our question of the day is going to be as we continue to get things moving along here and get everybody going in the chat.
I've seen a lot of people talking about how they have to end this. And the question of the day is, are the Golden Knights the Jets' biggest rival? So we've had a lot of time to think about this. So I want you guys to tell us if you feel Vegas is the Jets' biggest rival. They've knocked the Jets out of the playoffs twice. There's a 7-game losing streak going on right now.
Yeah,
although
they really had their number.
A lot of the conversation in the dressing room, and certainly with Scott Arniel today, was that they played one of their best games during that 4-game losing streak. Yep. In Vegas. They were tied at 3, just gave up that late goal. The one thing that Scott Arniel has brought up often is that they gave up a lot of rush chances. I believe there were 7 in the game in Vegas. They got scored on 3 times. That is not what the Jets like to do. Give up those rush chances, and they had a problem containing Vegas in that aspect. So I think they'll be pretty much ready. So a lot of people going Minnesota. Minnesota's our biggest rival. Trish, Kim, Sandy all agree it's all time pretty much Minnesota. Matt says it's Minnesota. So we'll have to see if this changes. But I appreciate everybody's continuing thought process on this one, and feel free to chime in as the show goes along.
All right. And Trish, I believe, is also watching from New Zealand. So love to see that as well. As Jets fans, we know can be found everywhere. You mentioned the 7-0 run right now that Vegas has on Winnipeg. The second meeting, obviously, of the season, you talked about it. Vegas had that 4-3 win over Winnipeg in Vegas back in November, and they'll be looking for a change today. One of the things that has caused Winnipeg issues, Vegas power play in the 7th stretch. 7-game stretch.
Yeah.
They've been over 33%. So something that certainly you're going to want to look for discipline tonight, and we'll continue to break that down as we get going. Game 3 of 4 on this homestand. I love that they have been home. It's been nice to see the players and see the coaching staff, and you just feel more connected to everybody and what's going on when they aren't on the road for 11 days or
like
seemingly
even Paul
forever.
Edmonds and Mitch, like I feel like we're reestablishing our relationships again because we haven't
The
seen them a lot.
friendships, the bonds.
It's just such great people.
So we'd love to hear your answers as to what you think regarding the rivalry. Is it the Winnipeg Jets' biggest rivalry?
James.
Oh, what do we have here?
Minnesota or Toronto.
Ooh.
Yeah. So Toronto will no longer be known as Toronto. They'll just be known as Toronto.
Well,
thank you.
Let's talk a little bit about the win that the Jets had coming into this tonight. And we wondered about going up against a team that was rolling.
Yeah,
Boston. We talked a lot about the job that they'd been doing since Joe Sacco took over as head coach, as interim head coach. But this was a game in which Winnipeg Jets, we heard a lot about that attack mentality that Scott Arniel and the coaching staff wanted to see. They certainly did it. And that was, barring a couple minutes, he likes to point out, where things got a little bit off the rails in that third period. This was kind of a 58-minute effort.
Yeah.
And an 8-1 dominating win.
And as the third period, which got a little crazy and things escalated quickly, to take something from Anchorman, the Jets had played a solid game. And I think a lot of the shenanigans that happened third period clearly was because Winnipeg frustrated Boston. And that's another thing that Scott Arniel pointed out yesterday after practice, was that was why things got off the rails the way they did, because they had frustrated. That's their game. When you don't give the opposition anything to work with, Boston had nothing. Maybe in the first 10 minutes of the first period where Connor Hellebuyck had to make a few saves, that was really where Boston had their opportunities. But after that, they didn't have a sniff. And then for them to, to get up to 8-1 was not where I saw things happening. There was 3 fights. Things got a little out of control. David Gustin got hurt, so he's in concussion protocol right now. So that will mean Rasmus Kupari will come in the lineup again tonight. That's really the only change for the Winnipeg Jets ahead of this game against Vegas.
Yeah, power play was working.
Yes.
Top line.
Second unit, right?
The top line certainly had 4 goals, and so they were on fire as well, which was something that we saw, when they were looking for that bounce back game against Florida. Top line really inserted themselves into the narrative and the game, and they did that again in this one. So in your mind, what is the key for them to be able to follow that up today? You're not looking for another. 8 goals is great. Yeah. I'd love to see it, but
not the way Vegas is defending.
It's not what you expect to see. So what's the key to following it up, though, in terms of a win? And
I think I was wondering too, like, you have that third period was so emotional. Do you take that? Are you drained a little bit? But I think that's a lot to build off of. And Scott Arniel pointed out the fact that game just happened. It's in the past now, maybe about the third period and stuff like that. But I think that's a game you build off of, and you see again, they were more direct. That's what the whole conversation was, as you said a little bit earlier. So you have to remain to be more direct. You got to get pucks to net. Vegas is one of the best shot blocking teams in the NHL. They have been for a very long time. They take away the middle. That's what Boston was reportedly doing beforehand, but the Jets got through that. So I think the start will be big for Winnipeg again tonight. And, we look at things and we look at the long losing streak that they've lost 7 straight, but there's been some good games in there. It's not like Vegas is in their head or anything like that. And Morgan Barron said today, is like the games all meld together. Like you lose track of what, even thinking of that game in Vegas. Like
I lose track of games from earlier this week.
Totally. Yeah. What happened against Columbus? I already forgot, but I get their point. But I just think there's lots to build off of what happened against Boston on Tuesday.
For sure. One of the things that, you mentioned that Vegas had success on the rush against Winnipeg in that last game. I think when you look at that 7-game stretch overall as well, they have had a lot of success in the slot, in that inner slot area. Yes. So something that the Jets are certainly going to need to be cognizant of. Let's take a look quickly at the projected lines for today. You mentioned that David Gustafson not going to be in the lineup tonight, so Rasmus Kupari draws back in. The only change that we are expecting from there. And Nikolai Ehlers update, he was injured actually in that game against Vegas. That's what took him out. He skated today before the group for the third consecutive day, which is great, but there's still no timeline yet as to when he will be back skating with the team in a non-contact jersey. Dylan Sandberg still in a walking boot. Sometimes yes, sometimes no, according to Scott Arniel, but I saw Sandberg after the game the other night against Boston, and he was in the walking boot, so still no timeline set for his return.
Yeah, and I mean, you missed some, but Neil Pionk was asked about that today too, about what they've done. So his minutes have gone up. So have Josh Morrissey's. You've seen the top 4 defense pairings flip flop back and forth. Sometimes Pionk's with Morrissey, sometimes Pionk with Hayden Fleury. So I think the Jets have found an effective top 4 going well. And of course, Billy Halen returned to the lineup last game. He had a good night as well. And then I've seen this numerous times in the chat. Nikita Chibrikov, like now he's got a lot of pressure on him.
Yep.
He scored a goal in both his games in the National Hockey League, and that was brought up afterwards about the goal scoring streak he's on right now. Had a goal and his first NHL assist against Boston as well. He'll be in the lineup again on that second line. Just love the way he played, and he's just extremely physical. He's tenacious. That's what I've really learned to appreciate about Nikita Chibrikov in his short time in the National Hockey League, and certainly watch him with the Manitoba Moose.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm loving some of these comments. Oh, so most still say that the Wild are the biggest rival. I liked try and think of where it is in here, but they said Wild are the biggest rival, but Vegas is the nemesis for it. So, I mean, that might be a good way of looking at it as well. Vegas has to be second, says Luke, in terms of rivalry. What?
Nemestikov, Chibrikov, Profetikov. Well, nicely done, Matt. Always, as always, appreciate that.
Oh, I like it. Yeah. Matt, always so great to see you in the chat. Obviously, always one of the most active in the chat as well. Yes, we are all wishing Gus a full and speedy recovery. A great guy, so hope to be able to see him available and back as an option sometime soon.
Phyllis says Vegas is my biggest rival. Are we talking about the city, Phyllis?
That's right. Phyllis, there's some stories you want to talk about right now. Yeah, maybe we need an open mic for it. You mentioned that I caught up with Gabe Vilardi earlier today. That top line, as I said, it was on fire.
Combined for 8 points.
Yes, led by Mark Scheifele, I thought, as such a driving force in it. But those 3, Kyle Connor, Mark Scheifele, Gabe Vilardi, had such a strong game against Boston. I caught up with them just a short while ago. And obviously, and the production that your line in particular had, what is it that worked so well for you 3?
Well, I think our line had good production, but the whole team had good production. I think we got more pucks to the net, which is something we kind of talked about going into the game, and something we need to continue to do. I think just getting pucks to the net kind of creates scrambles and gets team out of position more often. So it's something we need to continue to work on. And as a line, we're good once we get into the offensive zone. We've got to make sure we're doing the right things to get there.
Is it just a mindset more so when you look at getting more pucks to the net, more directness?
Yeah, a little bit of mindset. You could say that. Just having that the thought process. Hey, like there's no play here. Instead of trying to force something or try and beat a guy, maybe just throw it to the net and other teams make mistakes. And then, like I said earlier, a lot of things happen off the shot, where the rebound goes, it gets other guys or the other team into different positions and they have to, think. And like I said, that's when mistakes happen.
When you look at the style of game you're expecting against Vegas, it's a heavy team. They play that heavy style of game. What's the key to being able to have success here tonight against them?
I think if you look at them, they're really good off the rush. We got to make sure we're doing the right things in the neutral zone, and then also in the O zone, making sure we have that high F3 and just making sure we're all tracking back and trying to cut down their rush chances. And then, like you said, it's going to be a heavy, tight checking game, and those are what we're accustomed to now, and hopefully we can get a win.
Still a busy schedule. Has it been nice to be at home though for this?
Yeah, it has. It's been nice on the body and nice to see friends and family and be back in front of our fans. It's been a long month here, you could say, and it does feel good to be playing at home again.
Finally, last question. Tips in front of the net. When you are in the net, how is it that you have become so good at it? Are there specific things that you work on in terms of hand-eye coordination, or what do you attribute it to?
Yeah, I think it's a bit of the hand-eye coordination, working on having good hands in tight and stuff like that. And then also just guys I play with, they create space for themselves and a lot of the time I am the guy that's at the net. Obviously on the power play, that's kind of my position, and then in 5-on-5 play, I end up a lot of the times at the net. So I enjoy working on my hands. It's fun for me, and I think I've kind of grown into that net front kind of role.
Thanks so much for the time. Appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure.
Gabe Vilardi, good interview.
Well, I asked him afterwards again about once we finished the interview, just, okay, are there certain things though that you do? And he said that it was something that he really started working on when he was much younger. He realized he wasn't the greatest skater. He said, wasn't particularly fast, had to find different ways to be able to contribute, whether it was, and he likes being out there with the tennis ball and just working on those tight spaces.
That during Jets practice, that's one of the things I love watching is just towards the end of practice, the defenseman will just throw pucks to the net and he'll tip them. He's like, he gets a piece of literally probably 99% of every shot that goes towards the net. It's crazy how good he is. And Ryan Smith was a wizard at it when I used to cover the Oilers. And
I'm always impressed by it because I do not have great hand-eye. You mean no?
No, you do not.
You don't even know.
Well, I'm just going with what you said. I'm just supporting you.
You don't even.
I'm supporting what you said. If I contradict you, then that's
many moons ago.
Oh, Sarah, you have great hands. I'm sorry.
Many decades ago, I remember coming home from the first basketball team that I had made in junior high.
Yeah.
And I remember being told.
We're gonna go back.
I remember being told that is great because you do not have hand-eye coordination or depth perception. So
the best of that stuff is your kids. Your kids will tell you flat out.
It's true. Yeah. No filter.
No.
That's why all those shows with kids say the darndest things always work so well.
Very true. Very true.
All right. Vegas comes into tonight. They are well rested. They have had a quiet December so far. They are in a stretch right now in which they're going to play just 3 games in 12 days. They've got 12 games in December, and they haven't played since December 6th, a 3-2 win over Dallas, and they've won 4 of their last 5, starting with that win over Winnipeg.
Funny how you mentioned that because Kelly Moore asked Neil Pionk about the Vegas has been resting, how that plays in. But I like Neil's response basically was, we don't worry about what's going on over there.
Right.
I mean, sometimes when you come off a long rest like that doesn't help you either. Because you haven't been in it like the way the Jets have. So, but there's lots of different ways where this game can go. And but I think both teams will be clearly ready to go from the start because of their history that they have with one another, although a lot of you feel they are not the Jets' biggest rival.
One of the things I like that Alex Iafallo said about this game against Vegas, we definitely want that one back, being that last game in Vegas. So the boys are going to be rocking for it. So hopefully they come out with some jump tonight. There are, as we know, many Manitobans associated with the Vegas Golden Knights, and it looks like all of them are going to be in the lineup this evening. Mark Stone has returned to the lineup. He was back in that last game against Dallas. He's always back
whenever they play against the
I know.
Jets. Yeah.
For
always.
it. Yeah. And also Zach Whitecloud. It looks like he'll be making his return to the lineup tonight. So this is going to be a Vegas team that is a healthy team. This looks very much like the roster that they expected to have. But how much success have Manitoba players had against Winnipeg?
Right, hold on. So,
it's just
Sarah's basketball bloodlines. She was, if my memory recalls, a point guard. Is that correct?
For it, I was not. I was not. It would have explained a lot about the team if I was a point guard. No. Back then I was a post. It's my incredible height.
Yeah.
Just couldn't. Yeah.
Oof. You must have been unstoppable. Yeah.
It's the elbows.
I get the sense that you would not be fun to go up against in the post.
No, I wouldn't be.
No,
I can be feisty.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. We'll see.
Fair.
Mark Stone, 15 points in 16 games against the Jets. Keegan Colasar, 1.9. Zach Whitecloud, 4 points in 6 games. And then Brett Howden, who obviously had such an impact in that last game between these two clubs, 4 goals and 5 points in 11 games. So it'd be great, though, if they could have a little bit less success in their home provinces.
I like the Manitoba Mafia is here tonight. Well done. So there it is. Mary Jane coming through. Manitoba Mafia.
I like it.
Yeah. So I think Darren Millard is obviously part of the Manitoba Mafia. He is born and bred here. Yep. So let's bring in Darren Millard from VJK TV, if that makes, I like your title, VJK TV. Is that?
I don't even know what you're talking about. He's speaking English.
I don't know what he's talking about either, Darren. You can imagine
that's what it
how
says
concerning that is.
That's where I saw it. It was like on the webpage, VJK TV, Darren Millard.
It's GK, not you're saying J, VJK.
We're ready to play this game, are we? Okay.
BGK
Sarah, ask the
TV.
first
Hey, good to be back with you guys.
Okay,
Haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah. No, it's not enunciation, please.
Oh,
It's just,
okay. So now we're gonna gang up. Okay, go.
That's
first
right.
question.
It's not enunciation. You were using the wrong letter.
letter. So let's be honest.
It's more about the alphabet than it is enunciation.
Now my face is as red as his hat. So let's go ahead. Carry on.
Darren, thanks so much for joining us.
Here.
I'm there. I was just talking about how it looks like the Golden Knights are going to have a full, healthy roster back tonight if White Cloud's able to go as well. Mark Stone having returned last game for it. What do you expect this Vegas team to look like tonight with a couple of familiar but new guys back in the lineup?
Yeah, in the summer you've got your whiteboard, and this is what we hope we have up front. This is what we look to have on the blue line and the starting goaltender with the backup. Those 20 players, they haven't had that all year because there's been different people out at various times. The last game against Dallas, they finally had their 12 forwards that they hoped to have at the start of the season. They were all in the lineup. And with Zach Whitecloud coming back tonight, they finally have their 6 defensemen. That is going to happen for the first time in 17 games. But as far as the 20 guys, this is the first time that Bruce Cassidy will have that arrangement to draw upon all season. So it's allowed for some fluid movement up front. The start of the season didn't have Mark Stone with Jack Eichel and Ivan Barbashev. That wasn't the plan. Injury forced that into place because William Karlsson wasn't available, and it clicked. They were the best line in the National Hockey League until Mark Stone went out. So that's going to go back together. And on the back end, they'll have Alex Pietrangelo and Noah Hannafin together, 2 guys that are going to play in the Four Nations face-off, although on opposite sides. So Shea Theodore will skate with Braden McNabb. They've been outstanding. Theodore will skate in the Four Nations face-off. And on the back end, the longtime duo of Nick Hague and Brandon's Zach Whitecloud.
Okay, so Aiden Hill's having a great year, solid goaltender. So outside of Vegas and Las Vegas, the market, is he underappreciated in your eyes, Darren?
Yeah, probably because of the conversation that's taken place about the lack of stars available in goal for Team Canada. That's been the overwhelming discussion that's taken place regarding concerns for the Four Nations face-off. And when you're looking at that, that automatically means whoever's going to play the Team Canada role is underappreciated or not looked upon as the same status of a Patrick Waugh or Ed Belfour or Martin Brodeur, that level of goaltending. But what Aiden Hill has been able to do when he's been healthy has been significant. It's been among the league leaders, and the performance has been right at the top of the league when he's been healthy. The problem with Aiden has been his inability to being able to play a full season. He's never hit the 40 game mark as far as games started in the season. His goal this year is to start 50. He's in a contract year, so that's a motivation for him. But he's won a Stanley Cup, and when he's going, he is as good as you're going to find in the Western Conference or in the National Hockey League. And right now, he's on the best roll that he's had all season. He's 7-1-1 in his last 9 games, and that is continuing a trend of stealing some games along the way with a team where you're not expected to make those big saves every night.
Darren, I was going to ask you about just the Western Conference as a whole, but a lot of people in our chat are talking about the good old days when you were here in Winnipeg and CK&D Sportsline and all of those wonderful memories. Can you describe for us what Sportsline was like back then? Like, just give us a sense of what kind of the atmosphere was like with all of you guys.
Well, it was Eugene and Calvin Cron was our producer, editor, and Joe Pascucci, and we just had that was the main group when I was there, and we had a couple of others, Carlos Machado and Keith McMahon come through as well. But Eugene and I, we were roommates off the air. And then we would go to air and do a half-hour sports show and spend all night together. And that was our life. And we did the goofiest skits, and we had the most fun. And it was total freedom to be able to really explore and put on an entertaining show that didn't have the pressure of necessarily the National Hockey League tradition and the glare of a national broadcast where there is the need to be super buttoned down and professional. We did basically whatever we wanted and had the most fun doing it. And I think back to some of the skits that we did. Like during the lockout, we did some goofy things and skill shows and the
What's a favorite one then? What's one of your
we did an April Fool's joke one time, and this was Joe's idea. And so I'll blame him or give him credit. But it was a year in which the Jets 1.0 didn't make the playoffs, and we came up with an idea that San Jose had used an illegal player, and they lost all the points that they had used with this particular player, and the Jets were back in the playoff picture. And people took it seriously, so we got into some hot water with that. Eugene and I did one where during the lockout we went to the rink, to the Winnipeg Arena on opening night, and the security guy didn't really get the vibe that we were selling, like, hey, we're here for the game, and that we were putting on like a joke skit, and he kicked us out of the Winnipeg Arena. And like Buddha said, we ended up in the old Winnipeg Stadium bleachers, like going, there's a game. Like it was goofy. We pretended to fall downstairs during skills competitions. It was so much fun. One night we had the Grey Cup. It just happened to be in town. Sorry to go on and on here, but we had the Grey Cup in town. It was at Winnipeg. It was at the Blue Bombers offices, and we said, well, can Gene and I have it for the show? And they're like, yeah, but you got to come and get it. I'm like, all right. So I drove over in my Chevy Cavalier and drive back from Winnipeg Stadium with the Grey Cup on the floor of the front seat, my passenger seat. And then we get a note. I can't remember. It was Ken Donovan, the PR person then, but he said, you know what? We're not going to pick it up tonight. Can you just keep it and we'll get it tomorrow? You can drop it off tomorrow. Yeah. And so Gene and I took it back to our house. We had the Grey Cup in our house overnight.
Oh my gosh.
Night. And just like, it was in my bedroom. Like I woke up and there's the Grey Cup sitting there. It was just goofiness and freedom. And it'll never be like that again. And maybe it shouldn't be like that. Probably shouldn't be like that again, but it was really, really good.
Okay, so Joe Pascucci's watching, and he said,
Hi, Joe.
He says, I like the one where Gene hit you with a hockey stick.
Okay, so that was where Dirk Graham had Joe would like that because Joe wanted to hit me with a hockey stick more than a few times. Dirk Graham had the old Gretzky Yofa helmet.
Yes.
And he got hurt. And we read somewhere where like you weren't supposed to play hockey with that helmet. And on the listing of it, you could do light housework, but that was about it. So I wore this Yofa helmet one night on the set, and I was pretending to do cleaning. I spray bottle and I cleaned, and Gene just turned around and for some reason he wanted to make it look realistic, and he whacked me in the head. Like it hurt, and it was live on the air, and but that thing really hurt. Joe, you're watching, and you know this. At the end of every sports line, we would have to throw over to Barry Burns for a news update, and this is on Joe. I know this is on Joe, but we all did it. And then we would get tuned in by news directors, and then we would go back and do it. But at the end of the show, we'd throw to Barry, and Barry would pre-tape his little news update at the end by saying, thanks, Joe, thanks, Gene, or thanks, Darren, whoever was hosting the show that night. And Joe started doing this thing called like Barry, let's go over to Barry Burns. Barry, what would you say if we gave you $1 million? And it was just, thanks, Joe. And they were going to Barry. What would you say if we rescued your dog from a burning building? Thanks, Darren. Like, those kind of things, just stupid things, but fun, like all fun. And we would go in and we would do the lineup on a little piece of paper, the whole rundown on a little piece of paper. We would cut our own highlights and make it happen. And the crew was awesome. It was just so cool. It was fun.
Dan, was there anything more awkward than the news person throwing to sports? Do you remember that? It would just be the most awkward thing in the world. Like, they had no clue what you were doing. They had no clue what's going on in the sporting world. And they would just be like, and here's Darren with, looks like the Jets are on a little bit of a roll. And it'd be so awkward.
Yeah.
So
and you always had that little in the back of your mind going, I wonder if I could just start talking about any sport right now about any team. And when I finish, if I just threw back to them, if they would even notice that I wasn't talking about what I was supposed to be discussing.
They would not. They totally would not even know. And like if you as a sports person, if you ever threw back to them, hey, how's the stock exchange going on as I throw back to news? Like they wouldn't even know what to do at that point.
No. And by the way, the TSX was up 20 points today. Thanks, Darren. No, we did have Brian Swain when I first went to see Candy. The late Brian Swain, love him to death. He was a sports guy, so he got it, and we would end up in our chat using up almost all the time that we had before we got into whatever feature that we did that particular night. So he was good, but everybody else that I've worked with along the years, it could get a little sketchy.
Yeah. News people are very good at their news part of their job, that's for sure.
But they know the alphabet.
Yeah, they most certainly do. And what day of the week it is.
We had a lot of people go through that station. It was so much fun.
Darren, you know what? We're gonna have to have you on another as well if we can. I would love to have you come back. I know that people in the comments right now, everybody is loving hearing these stories and going down memory lane. So maybe we can time it up and have you and Joe on one show with us and relive some of the memories if you're willing to.
I would love to do that. I saw Eugene the other day. He came through town with the Oilers.
Yes.
Yeah. And we were giggling about different things because when I lived with him, I would eat all the pancakes except for one, and I would leave them in the fridge thinking I could get away with it. And he would get so mad at me for eating all the pancakes. And
at least you left one though, Darren.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Exactly. That's what I thought. And then Joe and I could scrap. We could go back and forth and debate things. Gene, he would have a fight, and before he was done even finishing the fight, he would apologize to Joe. Yeah. And I'm sorry, Joe. I'm really sorry about that. And we had fun.
Is there anybody better than asking a hardball question in a soft way than Gene Principe?
No. And you want to go over and just thank him for asking the hard question.
Yeah.
And he just, there's no animosity there with Huge. Like it's such a good guy.
Okay, we are definitely doing this though.
This is what we need.
Yes, we are getting Gene as well. People, absolutely. We've got James commented, "My face hurts from laughing so much listening to this."
Mine too. We didn't even talk about the game.
I know. You know what?
This is going to be a great game, but who cares about the game, right?
Who cares, Darren? Let's go down memory lane. So let's have you, if you're willing, like I said, we'd love to have you back on. We're going to get the whole crew back together from Sportsline
crew,
and go down memory lane because these were some fantastic stories, and I know that everyone watching would love to hear some more. So, and
there's stuff that I can't even remember that I'll think about in 5 minutes and go, why didn't I bring that up?
Amazing. Next time,
Gene will get the old memory going as well. So it's just it was like I've heard of so many legendary stories about you guys. I unfortunately didn't get to live here during that time, but Michelle Lissel is we're talking about that. Anyway, toe tap. I'm getting the toe tap.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No.
My
are you
fault.
kidding? No. Are you kidding? That was great, Darren. We appreciate
Enjoy
it.
tonight. We're
going to bring the bloopers.
Yes.
Oh yeah. The bloopers will be. Yes.
Okay. No. We can't give it all away.
Yeah.
But yes, we're in for this.
Okay. Thanks, Darren.
I'm in, Joe. Bye, guys. Bye, Sarah. Bye, Jamie.
See if I-
I'll bring the bloopers.
Oh my
the
gosh.
bloopers would be fantastic. Joe, we are making this happen.
Yeah, it's got to happen. Like maybe we should just do a separate show outside of it. I think we could do that.
Well, we could just do
On a game day?
holiday show. Yeah, why not do it on a game day? We'll pick a game and
Islanders.
okay. So
Just
look,
saying.
as we quickly, because it's we're already run over what we were planning on doing. I'm just going to let you know that the runway premieres tonight, episode 3. It's a great episode. It's another extended one. It's about 17 minutes long, takes you through, it's called History, takes you through the start of the season. So you don't want to miss that. It airs in the first intermission, but you can watch the entire episode on the Winnipeg Jets YouTube page as well as the homepage.
Do you want to play the trailer, or we?
You do your podcast though,
Okay,
because
yeah.
Eric Comrie. We
Okay.
got to keep laughing.
Okay, Eric Comrie came on yesterday. The podcast is going to come out on April 15th, December 15th. It's Combs at his best. First question I ask him is, how many people still call him Eric? I call you Combs. A lot of people call you Combs. Who calls you Eric?
I don't know. Anyone calls me Eric. Maybe my wife if she's mad at me.
Right? Which only makes sense.
Yeah, my mom if she's mad at me, but that's about it. I get E. Mom calls me Bear. And then Combs.
I thought for sure Mom. Like that's like feels
no,
like the
Mom
easy
doesn't
one.
really call. No, Mom doesn't call me Eric. And then in Buffalo they called me Ricky.
What?
Yeah, Eric Ricky. You know.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah, and actually that stuck around pretty good.
Okay, Ricky. Okay, we're gonna have to hang on to that one. All right. Obviously, the volume didn't work again, so we'll have to talk about that another time. Anyways, he was funny. You just have to believe me on the 15th of December. So make sure it's on YouTube. It'll be on also on.
It's the ultimate teaser.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. Listen, I apologize for the volume part, but I swear to God, I had it up. It's not on mute. We're not going to get into this. Vegas in town to take on the Winnipeg Jets as we went off the rails again.
Yes.
But that was fun.
But it was a great time. So we definitely have to do it. Joe, we're so glad that you were watching today and in the comments and in the chat with us as well. So Joe Pascucci is going to bring bloopers this one time. We're gonna
Gene
get the
Principe is going to
game.
bring the memories.
We haven't told Gene yet, but we're gonna get.
Oh,
the
he's
game
doing
back
it.
together.
He will.
He'll do it
Yeah.
for sure. He will.
He's the nicest guy ever.
It'll be a great game tonight. 2nd of 3 meetings between Vegas and Winnipeg. Should be a good one here. Anything else you want to add in?
See, somebody heard Combs because he talked about his nickname's Ricky
Oh,
from
see.
Buffalo.
All right. Volume was okay, says Debbie. There you go.
Thank you. So somebody. I got 2 people
Aw.
that are on my side. Thank you guys there. Appreciate it. Anyways, it's going to be a great game tonight.
Yeah, we're going to wrap things up
Yeah.
before it continues. But make sure Saturday, Montreal Canadiens in town. It ends this 4-game homestand. Patrick Laine continues to make his presence felt in his return to the Canadiens lineup, especially on the power play, something that Winnipeg Jets fans know well. We'll talk about that and more on Saturday when we get you ready for that game. But enjoy tonight's game, everybody. Thanks for checking.